My mom's side of the family had been coming to the US. I don't know how far back. I wouldn't be surprised if it was as far back as like the 50s or 60s.
Gotcha.
Um, and so, which is why we would come to the US and Canada too, for vacation, because we could visit family and then, be in New York City or Toronto or Montreal or whatever.
Mhm.
So, you know, with Venezuela, we always had inflation issues. Corruption was always a problem. And there was just always kind of instability, but we were wealthy enough that it hedged, we were kind of protected from a lot of those things.
Mhm.
Like if there was a shortage of something, we were wealthy enough that we probably knew the producer of that product and we could have it.
Got it.
So, so we were a little bit insulated, but you could still see the stuff happening. When it comes to like law enforcement and military, was like never really a safe place because the military at that time wasn't as developed as it is now.
Mhm.
So what the military would do to recruit is they would just kind of like go around and like just kidnap anyone who looked like they were 18.
Gotcha.
Um, and my brothers were getting older,
Mhm.
like, so like that was always a fear mothers have, that like they'll just lose their sons and you just don't know if they got kidnapped or if they were murdered, like are they in the military, and you would know like 3 years later when the military let them out and they showed up.
Gotcha.
Because back in the day we didn't have like phone lines, so, it's not like they could call and say, hey mom, I
Yeah,
got
yeah, yeah.
recruited. I was shocked when I went back in like 1998 and there was a television ad to like join the army. And I was like, oh my gosh, like they're asking people to volunteer. Like it used to be they just grabbed you and that was the end.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and then law enforcement, was its own separate beast. They're pretty corrupt and, you just didn't know what to like expect. Like so many, someone like so many of my cousins were beaten up because again, in those days, that was their way of getting money. Like they would shake you down, and if you didn't have money, then they would beat you because you
Gotcha.
wasted their time. They
Mhm.
so those were things that were always like troubling and always in the back of my mom's mind because as a girl I was insulated. Like they wouldn't like beat me up, but my brothers, they would have challenges or problems. Like so to all of the male cousins who would be like beaten up.
Yeah.
So so once things started to get, I don't know, I think my mom just started to realize, like the life we have is pretty good, but it's pretty unstable.
Mhm.
And she'd rather like just move to the US and, um, and live here where there was a little bit more predictability. Over the years, we'd visit so many parts of the US, mostly on the eastern border. And my mom just loved Philadelphia because, believe it or not, like for her, Philadelphia was like this bastion of greenery,
Wow. Oh,
like,
man.
like when you think about where we grew up and it's just red mud and it's dry and when she would come to Philadelphia there would be all of these trees and flowers and whatever. Like New York had them but not as much.
Yeah.
Because New York was much more densely packed. We had an uncle who was living in Philadelphia, and that's how she chose. She wanted to be in Philadelphia because she could have a garden
Yeah,
with
yeah.
some greenery.
Mhm. Mhm.